What's going on, my good people? Welcome back to Play to Win with More Than a Coach. Mike Holmes here, where I focus on scholarship over emotionalism. And today I'm back with another story about winning ways, and it goes as such. She was pregnant. There was no doubt of it. A feeling of dread came over Jane. Something seemed to stand there in the dark, threatening her. She felt his fingers reaching to grasp her throat. She could not breathe. A wave of nausea, then a chill. She must pull herself together. For an hour she sat motionless, thinking. Swivy, the cat got up and stretched. Snowflakes pattered against the window. Someone shook the furnace. She was pregnant. Pregnant. And what should she do? It wasn't that she didn't want a child. All 3 years of her marriage, she and Tom had talked about it. But the problems were so great, and that was the question of her career. That, after all, was the real issue. 12 years of preparation, 12 years of the hardest kind of work, and her mother would have her give it up, wish, just like that, as if it had been play. She wouldn't have said that about Tom's vocation, and he hadn't spent a third of the time in getting ready to do something worthwhile in life. Tom, old Tom, must go on. Tom must be spared anything that would disrupt his success. Tom was a man. You are a strange, selfish woman, her mother had said. A strange, selfish woman to want to keep on with your singing now that you have a husband and ought to have a child. Was she? Jane wondered. Some assurance in her whispered. No, her mother's ideas seemed abhorrent. She saw a vision of herself plodding along like a patient uterus, with no more brains than that. It made her shiver. And what did it lead to? Painfully, she counted over the women she knew who had been unselfish after her mother's pattern. There was Mrs. Furriton. She'd been a lot of fun as a classmate at college and a brilliant girl too. Now you couldn't get an idea out of her. Ditties, dishes, and doilies. That was all. Mabel Salter was somewhat better, but you felt as if it were a desperate veneer. A brave but hopeless attempt to keep in the human race and feel the thrive of things. She could chatter about the political situation and tell of the scientific discoveries with the best, but something had happened. She wasn't the Mabel of yore. Jane didn't argue to herself that every woman ought to have a career. Not that, but it shouldn't be torn away from her after years and years of getting ready for it. And then to have the glorious experience of being married and having a child made into a sodden duty, that was what hurt. It took all the joy out of giving to have cruel virtue piled on it. There was something so wonderful, so natural about it, if left untarnished by the denial people preached. And wasn't it possible to have one's children and yet go on with one's career? Schumann Hink, Louise Homer, lots of them had done it. She, Jane, got no further. The door opened, Tom burst in, energy and anger on his face. Hello, girl. Say, but I'm glad to see you. I've been delayed talking with your father and all of... He paused, not wishing to hurt his wife about the epithets that seemed to fit her family. The old man tells me I can make you give up your career. He seems to hate the idea of it, talks about your duty. Do you know there is something awful about such an attitude? A wave of wild joy seized Jane. She leaped across the room into his arms. Oh, Tom, to hear you say that. It isn't the music only, although I want to keep it. I've worked so hard. It's the way they have of being so cruel and posing as so good. I'm not being selfish. I'm not. Of course you're not, darling, he cried, patting her gently. We're not living in their century, and there isn't any such conflict between love and duty as they picture. It's only a superstitious bugaboo. Any woman has a right to go on with work and to keep her career if it's only selling pens at the 5 and 10. She isn't any good either if she compromises. Jane looked up at him, and she needn't go out of the home or do anything especially. It's an attitude I'm fighting for. It's the right to be myself and not an institution. I don't want to be just your wife or a mother or a housekeeper or anything else but myself. It's not a career that matters. I can give that up. I can't give up being Jane, and that's what they want me to do. I see it now. I see what's happened to the women who become submerged in duty. They compromise themselves, destroy their sex appeal, become a half alive sort of creatures. I'll never do it, never. Tom held her close. I'm with you, darling. I've been thinking a bit too. I have an idea. Do you know the greatest cause of divorce in America? No. What? Unselfishness. Unselfishness as advocated by people like your parents. Women disappear under it. The girl the fellow married is gone. He only has something left they call a mother, Jane burst in, a housekeeper, an institution. That's it. The men leave an institution, and I don't blame them.